Dark Matter episode 7 in the Fires of Dead Stars just dropped. And before I get into that, I just want to warn you that there will be spoilers. So if you haven't watched the latest installment, now would be the time to skip out on this video. Save it to your watch and be sure to subscribe and like this video. And also let me know what you thought of the latest episode. All right, getting into it now. Okay, so episode 7, when Jason and Amanda visit a really cool world, a really cool Chicago. Jason, too, does a lot of things to try and cover up the truth from Daniela. In the episode, Detective Mason shows up because Ryan Holder's girlfriend reports him missing. If you remember in the last episode, Jason 2 takes Ryan 1 into the box and shows him around. They get into a world and Jason 2 decides to leave him there. And then he seals the box. That's how the last episode ended. This episode, we see been missing for 2 days. We see Detective Mason showing up at Jason 2 and Daniela 1's house to ask questions about the whereabouts of Ryan. And so, of course, Jason 2 lied to the detective. And so then we snap into Jason and Amanda's reality and their world and where they're at. And we find out that it's been 29 days in fight or flight that they've been in. And I would say, Amanda needs something different. So they enter a world filled with really cool technology that doesn't ruin the planet, fueled by empathy. And so I thought it was a really cool world. So Amanda has a plan. And so she decides to stay in this world. She doesn't have a home. She's completely alone. She asks Jason 1 to stay. Of course, Jason 1 is so determined to get back home. As hard as it was to decide to go, he decides to go. There's a lot of really cool concepts that come out in this episode, that no world can be perfect. The other thing that Amanda said in this episode that I thought was really interesting was, what if she was the one, she's the thing that is keeping Jason 1 from entering into his world? And I thought that was interesting because there's two people and there are two different thought processes that they're thinking right before they open the door in the box. And so to enter into a world, clearly Amanda has feelings for Jason 2, Jason 1, both Jasons. And so she, as much as she wants him to find his family, there's still a part of her that kind of wants him to stay. And so she just kind of basically removes herself from the equation so that he can get home. There is only four vials left. Jason 1 secretly gives her 2 vials and he keeps 2. So then we snap back to Jason's 2 world. And if you remember the last episode, he's seeing a therapist and it's Amanda in that world, in his world. And Amanda is trying to help him make sense of where he's at and in his marriage and in this whole transition of him coming into a world that's not his, but that he wants. Obviously, she doesn't know the details, but in this therapy session that we see in this episode, Jason wants to remove himself from the world he worked so hard to be in. And, she has some questions for him. And then he ends up kind of sitting there knowing what he knows about her, kind of basically reads her mail and tells her who she really is and what she's about and why she does what she does, and basically like revealing stuff that Amanda never revealed to that Jason. So it's weird. And she's like, get out. I mean, I'm weirded out for her. We do see that Ryan's last cell phone pinged at a spot down in the south of Chicago. So she questions him about that. And Jason's like, he's like, I had no idea why he would be there. And so then what happens is Jason 2, well, first of all, remember he sealed it. So he breaks open where he can enter the box and he gets in there and he finds a Ryan from a different world and brings him back, the Ryan that is drinking and, not Ryan, not the Ryan from that world. So he goes back in there and then he cleans him up. gets him a cell phone, sobered up, and calls his girlfriend. It's kind of wild what he does. The lengths that he takes to hide the truth from Daniela, to cover his tracks with the detective. It's quite wild. So then we see, this is the craziest ending. I mean, the endings of these episodes are just, they get crazier and crazier. Jason 1 has two vows. One he uses, and he goes into the world, and it's the world where Max is alive. And that is the trippiest thing ever. He calls Daniela, they know each other, and he tells her things that maybe he hasn't said to her, maybe ever. So that's such a great scene. And then comes into the house late at night, and his son comes down into the kitchen and spots his dad, and he's like, "Dad, what are you doing?" And it's Jason 1. He realizes that it's Max. These scenes are so jarring, this reality, like to come into a world where your other son is alive and to choose not to stay in that world is so trippy and so wild to me. And in that world, Max is feeling like a complete failure because he was given somebody else's heart and given a second chance, basically, and he feels like he's not living up to it. And it's such a crazy scene, and I don't even know what to say about it except for wow. This show is just emotionally jarring yet again, and you just have to, like, these are concepts, things, scenarios that I don't think I've seen in sci-fi. Then we see Jason 1. He has one vial left, and he takes it. He goes in, not before he writes out some thoughts about the first time he met Daniela, what he was feeling, and the desire for him to go home and to be with his family. So he takes measures to make sure that this one last door that he opens is actually the world that he wants to get into, and it works. And he's finally back to his world. He goes to the pub to make sure that the bartender recognizes him. Everything is just correct in this world. So then he goes running to his house, and he sees his family sitting there. And then he sees Jason 2 come in through the door. And so then Jason 1 goes to a gun store to get a gun, and he can't buy a gun because he doesn't have the right license. So then he gets a knife and the strongest pepper spray that they have to defend himself. And so then he walks away. And then we see another Jason, the same Jason, a different Jason come into the store, and literally, like, it's the same action, same. And I'm thinking to myself, what is happening? Is this like, is he in a loop now? Like, what is happening here? He's finally in his world, and he goes into the store. He walks out with his purchase, but then he comes in again, asks for the same thing, the gun, even though the person that is helping him with the sale literally tells him, like, dude, you were just in here, we just had this conversation like not even 30 seconds ago. And so that's how the episode ends. Like, this show just keeps getting nuttier and nuttier, and I love it. It's like the upside down world, inside out world. Just a crazy, crazy episode. I thought it was a great episode. I thought it was just so also still as emotionally taxing as the last. Jason 1 goes into his world, and it's like all is well, and then it's not. And then it's not well. And so what are your guys' thoughts? I'd love to know. It was a crazy episode. Loved it. Probably one of the best. Let me know your thoughts, and we'll talk to you next time.